Morning, everybody. Or good afternoon, depending on where you are. I hope everybody is having a wonderful kickoff to their Wednesday. Some days I'm not sure what day it is. Could that happen to anybody else? I had to double check for a second. Is it really Wednesday? Okay, we're going to get started. Today we are talking about QuickBooks Enterprise versus QuickBooks Online Advanced. Group items is what they call this section in QuickBooks Desktop, which would be QuickBooks Enterprise. Bundle items is what they call them in QuickBooks Online Advanced. So we're going to be diving in on that topic today. Just give everybody a couple seconds to get logged in here. As always, we do have a handout on the side over there that you should be able to see in your GoToWebinar, just a PowerPoint of what we're going to be going over today. And then also, if you guys have any questions, make sure to put the questions in the questions area there or in the chat area, and I'll try to get to the questions if we have time throughout this webinar. Just a reminder about who Fourlane is. So our formulas for success, we focus on getting customers data, right? So you should be able to look at your financial system and be able to make decisions. You should trust the data in your system. You should know it's accurate. You should have your balance sheet substantiated for every month, every period that you're closing out. And so these are some of the things that we do to make sure that people have that data to make good decisions. So process, consistency, having documentation for redundancy, and then of course training. Custom programming has become more and more a focus over the last couple of years because I think everyone is realizing there is no system that will do everything. Not such a thing exists out there, right? So what we do is instead of, if you go into the next level of products like an Acumatica, which is one that we represent also, you still have to do custom things in those products, right? It is not just a magic wand. So what a lot of our customers are doing is making those tweaks on top of QuickBooks so we can stay in QuickBooks longer. Okay. All right, database repair. This is something we've been talking with a lot of customers about lately. All right, so let's jump in. What is a group or bundle item? So these often get compared to assemblies, groups versus assembly. When should I use a group? When should I use an assembly? So there are a couple of things to keep in mind when it comes to group items. And we're going to look at them so you can see them, but this is just some upfront information. So there are things that are frequently sold together. This is what a group or bundle item is. These are things, so as an example, that you could have independently put on your shelf, right? It could be inventory parts independently put on your shelf, but clients come in and they frequently ask for them to be put together. Okay. Now, groups are generally not on the shelf bundled, which is a weird word, right? Because that's what they call them in QuickBooks Online Advanced. So I always go back to a set of Harry Potter books, right? If I have a box set of Harry Potter books with each of the books inside of it, that is on my shelf. That is an assembly that I put together ahead of time, right? I put it together, I split them into the little box set, and it's put together ahead of time. That's an assembly. That's something I assembled ahead of time. Group item would be somebody comes in and frequently says, I need to buy all the Harry Potter books. Can you please gather them together for me? Right, so not assembled ahead of time, but frequently sold together. Hopefully that makes sense. Some other things that we've seen people use group items for or bundle items for is when we have things that need to include discounts. And the QuickBooks Online treats this a little bit different than QuickBooks Desktop. So when we say, if you buy the whole set of Harry Potter books, which we do not have assembled ahead of time, you will get 10% off all of the books. So it will be a group item, will be each of those books, and a 10% discount built into the group so that the cashier or whoever, the sales rep, does not have to remember to include that discount line when they do all of these books together. Other times we've seen it too in like the service industry, we'll see things that are frequently bundled together. So you'll see things like we include a trip charge, a mileage charge, and a gas charge. I don't know what else would go in there. But so anytime we go on site to a client, these three things are going to be included. And so instead of the cashier or the salesperson or the estimator, whoever, having to remember the three things that we need to charge when we charge a trip charge, the bundle is created so that they just have to remember, add trip charge, and it fills in those three things for us. Okay. Now, when it comes to bundles and groups, they both can be modified on the fly. So we can have a standard set, all the Harry Potter books, but then we can change it on the fly. Oh, well, I don't need the first one because I already have that one. So I can add the group and remove just that first line book. So we can modify them on the fly. Then the other thing to think about is assembly versus group. I promise this is the last thing I'm going to cover, and then we're going to get in product because that's the most fun part, right? Assembly versus group. So again, we talked about a little bit before. Build to stock with our clients. So if I'm going to assemble it ahead of time and stock it as a set of Harry Potter books, quantity 1 on my shelf, right? Not each individual Harry Potter books, quantity of 1 of each of the books, but quantity 1 of set on my shelf. That's that's when we're stocking items, and that's when we use an assembly. When we do build to order, right? So can you please go grab all the books and bring them to me? Build to order is usually we're using groups, okay? Especially if they're going to be modifying them on the fly and it's not consistent, okay? Because assembly items, they do average cost of all assembly items. So if I do an assembly for those Harry Potter books and sometimes I'm removing a couple of books, then the average cost is going to be skewed if I'm making frequent changes. Okay, hopefully that helps a little bit. Let's dive in product and take a look. So here I am inside of QuickBooks Online Advanced. We always start out in here. When I come down to my sales area, we have our products and services. And I am going to go ahead and create a new item. So when we create a new item in QuickBooks Online Advanced, we have a bundle as an option. Okay, and you can see what it says here: a collection of products or services that you sell together, a gift basket, cheese, wine. Yes, right, of fruit, cheese, and wine. So yes, but I would think that most times a gift basket is pretty standard. Hopefully it's pretty standard, right? Because then you're not having to always modify it on the fly. But so I actually disagree with the statement that it says here. If we come into QuickBooks Desktop and we go into our items list and we create a new item and we choose a group item here, it says here, use to quickly enter a group of individual items on an invoice. That to me makes more sense. So I'm going to choose bundle. When I add a bundle in here, so I'm going to just call it HP Books Bundle. I don't have all the HP books in here, by the way, so I'm going to be adding some screws and other things. But I just love Harry Potter so much. Down below here, so we can't have a SKU, can't have a partner in here. You can add a picture if you want to add a picture in here. Again, this is the only place where you would really see the pictures, right? You do have this choice to display the bundle components when you print or send transactions or not. So if I leave this unchecked on the invoice itself, it is going to just say HP Books Bundle. It's not going to show me all the components that go into the HP Books Bundle. Okay, So on this one, I'm not going to check it off. I'm going to go ahead and add a product. Now notice I can choose inventory parts, services, or non-inventory parts in here. So I'm going to add part A, and I can put in a quantity for. I can add in services. Services, and I can put in here quantity 50. I could continue to add things to this bundle, right? Add more additional lines. And then I'm just going to go ahead and save this, save and close. So we have that one created in here. Now in desktop, when I do it in here, so I'm going to do the same thing, HP bundle. We have a barcode number because we're in desktop. Enterprise, I can put in here Harry Potter books. And I'm going to choose to print items in the group. So same thing, when you check it off, that's saying show me the details when you are in there. So notice a couple things that is different in desktop. And again, just because you have these fields doesn't mean we need to use them. In our choices here, we can do units of measure. So that is a little bit different because we don't really have multiple units of measure in QuickBooks Online Advanced. You can also choose different parts, right? So I have service items, inventory parts, other charge. I can choose discount items if I have them in here. So I could put other things inside the group that we just, discounts are treated differently, right, in QuickBooks Online Advanced, which we've shown in another video. Okay, so now I've created a bundle. So now coming in here, when you look at the list item, so I have bundle A. One of the biggest differences between a bundle and an assembly item is a bundle does not have quantity on hand, right? So I don't have 50 quantity on hand of my HP books. It's just a way to quickly fill things in on transactions. So over here, I have the option to make an active duplicate. I can edit it, right? But if I'm looking at an inventory part as an example, I would have other things like run a report on this. If I'm looking at a service item, I would have other things like run reports. Okay. And of course, you can't modify the quantity on hand because there is no quantity on hand. There is no value. Okay. The other thing to keep in mind when it comes to this part is that where is it going to debit and credit, right? So the debit, if it goes on a sales transaction, is going to go to accounts receivable, right? So we know that. The credit side of it, it depends. So if it's an inventory part or if it's a services item, what's going to happen is it's going to follow the debits and credits of that part, not of the group item. So if I wanted to know what would be the debits and credits of this bundle, I would have to go look at part A and services to see where those point. So part A says when I purchase it, it's going to hit an inventory asset account. When I sell it, it's going to hit sales of product income. So it follows the debits and credits where it's going to hit, follows the individual components. You do not set up like you would in an assembly, you know, where is this part going to hit on my financials. So let's go on to an invoice and create an invoice and see what happens. There we go, create an invoice. So I come in here, I'm just going to choose any old customer. And I'm not going to fill in the information above, but down here below, I have my products and services. Okay, so it does show up just like anything else where I have hours, late fees, materials, PVC pipe, all the different parts. I also have my HP books bundle. Now, when I fill that in, notice what it does, right? It picks up and it has all of the components that I had set up for that bundle kind of indented in here. Okay. And notice too that when we're looking at line numbers, so this is line 1 and these are included in line 1 and then line 2 is down here. This is something that QuickBooks Online Advanced does that QuickBooks Desktop does not show its order there. Okay, so on here quantity-wise, when I put in here, so let's say they ordered 2 books, notice what happens is down below, it picks up, and it multiplies for me. So now instead of 4 and 50, it's 8 and 100. Okay, so you can use the top line, right, the line that you're choosing the bundle for, to modify down below and multiply down below. Now I could also come down below here and just change the amount or the quantity or the rate. So I have here fastener services. I don't have a rate. Maybe we need to put a rate of $100 in there for whatever services we're offering. I also have the ability, if you can see, I can put a plus in here. So I can add in an additional line on the fly if we needed to add a discount line, as an example, at the line level in this bundle. Okay, so something that we don't usually do, but all right, I had to add some PVC pipe into my Harry Potter bundle. Now, when I say save here, right, invoice is saved. When we come and down below and go to print preview, notice what we see, give it a second, is I just see one line with the total. Harry Potter books, quantity 2, super expensive Harry Potter books. These must be signed. Okay, so I don't see all the details in here. So what the customer sees is just a simple, and that's okay. If I had checked that box when I set up the item, I would be seeing the details, and we'll look at what that looks like in desktop here in just a second. The other thing that I want to point out is looking at our transaction journal. So when we look at this transaction behind the scenes, again, what it does is it says, okay, special part A, hits income, lessens cost or inventory, up cost of goods sold. So what we would expect to naturally happen when we sell an inventory part, which is special part A here. And then pipe stuff, which is a non-inventory part or a service item, is hitting income, right, for services. I'm sorry, that was here. Pipe stuff was a non-inventory part, hitting just income because it doesn't have the cost of goods sold and inventory piece because they're non-inventory parts. Okay, so they just follow the item with the debits and credits. Now let's go ahead down here into desktop and take a look at when we create an invoice. And I add this item to Big City Store. Yeah, all my pop-ups, all my things. And so I'm going to put in my HP bundle. Again, same kind of concept, right? We don't have a cool little plus sign over here to add an additional line, but I can come in and do control insert or insert line, add additional parts if I needed to, right? Add 12. So it's the same kind of concept. When I say save here, oh, I have locations turned on, sorry. Yep. So when I save here, and I continue to get my pop-ups, and I print preview this one, because I checked off that box, not pretty, I'm not sure what's happening. My poor demo files get so abused, but you can see it shows each of the lines. Okay, so you have the choice to show the details, not show the details in both products. Okay. The next thing that I want to look at is when it comes to expenses. Now, I don't know that I have ever really seen people use group items on expenses, but if you think about it, I mean, what we disclose groups as being is it's being a fast way to fill things in, right? It's just a quick way to fill things in on a transaction. Sometimes, most of the time, when we're looking for a quick way to fill things in on a transaction or a transaction that we're doing frequently, like let's say we frequently reorder the same parts or similar parts, we just update quantities every week from our parts supplier. Normally what we would do is we create a kind of dummy purchase order, right, that we would mark as completed, but we would create a dummy purchase order and then we would copy it. And then we would use that to, you know, mass fill in a whole bunch of things on a transaction. And it would be the same thing in desktop. We would just create a copy. Now, in here, you can, or when you go in to enter a bill or a purchase order or anything like that in QuickBooks Online Advanced, you cannot add bundles on the purchase side. It doesn't really make sense. But because we're just pointing out all the things possible, in QuickBooks Desktop, if I were to go in and create a purchase order, enter a bill, anything like this, I do have the ability to choose group items. So I can use them to frequently, like quickly fill in mass things on the purchasing side if we needed it. Again, I don't know that I've ever seen anybody do this, but it just, awareness is key, right? That's always the goal. Awareness is key. In Desktop as well, when you have a certain purchase order, if you wanted to reuse that purchase order, you also have create a copy. Okay, so I can take an old purchase order that I've used, completed, create a copy of it, and then make the modifications I need to make and move forward. That's what we see more frequently. Similarly on estimates, if you have a pretty standard estimate for what you do, a lot of times instead of creating bundled items for all the things we do, we will just create a standard estimate and create copies of them. All right, reporting. So reporting is always super important. So what does this all mean? Yeah, sorry, let me exit without saving. So one thing that we really have to keep in mind is that bundles, so if I wanted to know how many Harry Potter book bundles I sold, I cannot do that using bundles as is. Because when we look at sales reports as an example, so I come down here to sales by product summary, where that bundle falls is at the individual component level. So if I dive into this 64 here of part A, I will see my invoice that we just created here. And if I dive into that invoice more, right, I will see here's that bundle that we just made on this invoice. So in my reporting, it is not telling me how many HP books bundle I've sold. It is only telling me how much of the components I've sold. Now, we have come up with a workaround for people who need to absolutely track how many bundles they've sold before. So that what that workaround is, it's not pretty, but basically we create the HP books bundle, and then we create a non-inventory part also called HP books bundle, which goes into the HP books bundle. And it would be a non-inventory part with a quantity of 1 and no price, right? So there's no price, no financial impact of this. But if I were to have come in here and add it in, let's just go ahead and do it, HP books quantity, I'm just going to put quantity on here, call it a non-inventory part, and I can put it to wherever I want to put it because we're never going to hit an account. Say save and close. And then quantity of 1. Now, originally, if I had quantity of 2 on here, right, then it would have picked up that we had sold 2 of these. So at 0 impact, it's just an extra line in my transaction here. When I say save and exit out and go back to my report summary, now I can see the quantity of HP books I've sold. Right, so again, it doesn't pick up the amount price. I could have thrown the amount price in on this line also if I wanted to, but now at least I can see, yeah, I sold a whole bunch of part A's. Yes, I sold a whole bunch of levels, but how many HP books quantity bundle did I sell? Now I would be able to see that. So you'd have to throw in an extra line. Not the best way, right? Not the best way. We've got all sorts of workarounds when we're needing to track some of these things. Okay, let me pause for a second, see if anybody has any questions. And the way that it's handled reporting-wise in QuickBooks Online Advanced is exactly the same as it's handled in QuickBooks Desktop and QuickBooks Enterprise. So same exact process. Let's see. I would love to see, I don't think we have the poll going today, but if anybody uses bundles, will you go ahead and raise your hand in there? Let's see if anybody uses bundles while we are, or uses group items while we're waiting here for a second. No, nobody uses them. Surprising. Okay. A couple more things I just wanted to point out when it comes to bundles inside of QuickBooks Enterprise. You do have the ability to, at the group item level, you do have the ability to add custom fields in here. So just like you can apply custom fields at other levels, you can add in the custom fields. The custom fields are kind of difficult to get in there, so we have to do some different kind of importing. When you import group items, you have to import it in a different way than you import just regular inventory items, right? Because you're saying what is the group name and what are the components and quantity that go into the group. So it's very similar to the way that you import an assembly item. And the custom fields are not part of some of those import tools that exist out there. So we generally, when we have to import custom fields tied to group items, we have to import them using some of our custom applications that we built. So just an FYI there. But it's important to note that you can't have custom fields in Desktop down here. Okay. All right. So let's go on back into our slideshow here. So what we went through setup, we talked about list view, usage on sales and purchase transactions, and then reporting. Just a reminder, next week, we will not be having this course because we do have our What's New in QuickBooks Desktop 2022 happening. It is a different URL, so if you are needing the link to that go-to webinar, please make sure to ask and we can get it to you if you are not signed up already. We have usually a couple thousand people on that webinar, if not more. Depending on the year, we do it 2 weeks in a row. So one will be next Wednesday, and then the other one will be the following Wednesday. And then past that, we're starting the Enterprise series, which will be more deep dive into the how-to inside of QuickBooks Enterprise. We're focused initially on wholesale distribution, manufacturing situations and scenarios, and then we're going to go into some of the construction situations and scenarios. And then hosting and WebGility and some of the other things. So that is what is coming up. There have been a lot of changes when it comes to licensing inside of QuickBooks. So if you are questioning or if you're ready to buy 2022, which again is going to be coming out in a couple weeks, or if you are not sure what product you should be in, should I be going to QuickBooks Online? Should I be staying in QuickBooks Desktop? What is happening with QuickBooks Pro and Premier licensing? Definitely give us a call and we can tackle those questions for you because I know it can be confusing. There are a lot of products when it comes into the QuickBooks space, right? So we can definitely help tackle that for you. I'm not seeing any questions, so that's all I've got for you guys today. I'll hang out here for a minute in case anybody has anything else they want to throw at me, but I hope everybody has a wonderful day. Thanks guys for joining.